Here you go. You got anything you want to tell them? No? That's all right. You're welcome to stay if you want. You want to sing again? Well, okay. Hold on. Hey, Grandma, what's his name for you? Graham. Graham needs you, man. She can't go sit back down by herself. I'd let you stay all day. But she won't. Well, for you guys that didn't know I was preaching today, I'm sorry. For you guys that did, bless your hearts. You can see most of my family's not here because they knew. But that's okay. They all had various being sick and other places to be, and that's all right. I know a lot of you will find this a little bit of a shock, but I volunteered to do this, I think it's been a month ago now, and the whole time I've been thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. But in preparation, I watched a lot of Andy Griffith. I know y'all find that shocking. Well, I watched it and just couldn't quite find what I was looking for. Back up, Pete. We're not ready to get there yet, man. That's all right. You got to go to slide 1 because those are going to come on slowly in a minute. Bradley's been teaching my Sunday morning class out here in the gym for me. More of y'all probably would have been there if you'd have known that. Mike did a great job with it this morning, but we've been talking about some parables, and my lesson this morning comes from one of those Bible classes. There's lots of getting ready to do. And for you guys who've never done this before, I've done it before. Y'all might not remember this, but 5 years ago I got up here and did the same thing. So mark your calendars, 2027. During that summer, plan a vacation again, because Doug will be speaking. But we went over the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount, and a little bit of the Sermon on the Mount in one of those lessons Bradley did. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they're going to be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they'll see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they'll be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So in getting ready, I read I've tried to memorize these things, and I couldn't do it to save my life. I'm not good at memorizing things. I'm good at Googling things. You don't need to memorize stuff when Google's around, because you can just look it up. But we had a speaker at Winterfest several years ago when I was there who had the entire Sermon on the Mount memorized, and it was amazing to hear it preached and not read to you. It was a really cool thing. I'm not here to do that today. My lesson's not going to be near that good, and you probably won't even remember what I say, but hopefully you'll catch a little something in here that'll encourage you and give you some goals for the coming week. So in getting ready, I tried Andy Griffith. I tried memorizing some things that didn't work. Then it got me to thinking, how do we get ready for things? How do you get ready? Think about that for just a second. How do you get ready? And that's a loaded question. But you can just think about this morning. How do you get ready on Sunday morning? My getting ready usually involves a shower. Then I go to the closet to get a shirt out. My closet has all of my shirts hanging on the top rack with the thing I wore the most recent to the left, to your left, and the thing I've worn the longest ago to the right, so I just reach up to the right and grab whatever shirt it's been the longest since I've worn. Then I find a pair of pants. Everything in my closet pants-wise is jeans or khaki pants, so either one, they go with anything. I live a simple life. It's not hard for me to get ready in the mornings. I usually make a cup of coffee. Have a cup of coffee in the mornings. If I'm lucky, me or Christy will be inspired and make a little breakfast. If I make breakfast, it's usually popping open a can of pre-made dough of some kind and throwing it in the oven. If it's a work day, I make a sandwich to take to work that day most of the time. Out the door I go. Tell Christy and Summer, bye, have a good day. We all leave at our various times. Out the door I go. But there's other things we all get ready for. Now you can switch it to the next slide, Peter, and we'll see if they come out like they're supposed to. Oh yeah, it's working. Sometimes you're going to have a baby and you do a little remodeling. You got to get ready for a baby to come. Sometimes you're going on a family vacation. You got to get ready, get prepared, load the luggage up. You get ready to cook. You can't just throw the turkey in the oven. You got to get it ready first. Sometimes company's coming over and you've got to clean house. You got to vacuum a little bit, put some things away. Make sure you didn't leave any dirty clothes laying around the floor, or make sure all of your computer things are off the table is kind of what happens in my house. We all get ready for various things in various ways. The start of the school year is upon us. To get ready, the kids go swimming at the Pearson's house. We did not get to do anything near like that when I was a kid, so you guys are privileged. My family, like Mike's, is a family full of educators. I'm not an educator, thank goodness, because I couldn't do it. I deal with teachers, and that's bad enough. I can't imagine dealing with the students that are there. Some of you are teachers that are laughing, and you know of that of which I speak. But the start of the school year, we get ready. This weekend is the tax-free weekend. We buy clothes, we buy school supplies. We get ready to head back to school and get ready to be back into a routine that school brings us. The ones of us that are the corporate working stiffs, we have no idea about the getting ready for school because we just work all summer long. I've been there before also. The Beatitudes were the start of Jesus' very first sermon that he preached in his public ministry. He already had a lot of followers at this time, so many so that he kind of had to go up on a small mountain, a big hill, to rise up above everybody so they could hear him. And he kind of got up and separated himself from everybody and started to speak to the people that were there. And these Beatitudes, these blessings that he pronounced, kind of give us a good glimpse at who was there. His words at the beginning would get his listeners ready for the sermon they were about to hear. The sermon would get them ready for his ministry, and his ministry was there to get them ready for the kingdom. Jesus' entire life here on earth was spent getting people ready. The Beatitudes open the door for people who will be welcomed into God's family. It opened the door for folks who would eventually make up his kingdom and his church. And not only are they welcome, but they're blessed once they get there. Think of your own home or other people's homes you've been to that you felt truly blessed for having been there. You guys, I've been in some of your homes, and it was a blessing. I felt blessed when I left. Hopefully it's that way at my home too. It's probably not always. If all of my grandchildren are there, it's a blessing when the house empties again. It's a blessing when they walk in the door, and then it's a blessing when they leave also. You just kind of sit and enjoy the quiet for a minute. So both the guest and the keeper of the house are blessed in that event. But the beginning words of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus addresses some people that he sees in the crowd. He draws attention to people who don't normally receive very much attention. They're not the people you see on the news or people that you, hang on, Peter. I didn't leave Peter any notes about when to switch slides, and I'm hard to follow. I know that, Peter, but we'll get to "Oh Captain, my Captain" here in a minute. These people that Jesus was talking about are not people that you see on the news. They're not people that you watch on ESPN or on TikTok. They're people like the ones that are sitting next to you when you're at work or school. They're just average people. They're people that disappear into the crowd. They're people like many of us here at various times in our lives that just want to hide, just don't want to be noticed, just want to live their own lives and do the best that they can. And some of you guys may be on that list of folks this morning. Some of you may be looking for a blessing. Some of you may be feeling pretty poor in spirit. You may be feeling down. Some of you may just be craving the righteousness that Jesus talked about, hungry and thirsty for the righteousness. Some of you may be trying to make peace in a family, or trying to make peace at work, or trying to make peace in a group of friends. You might be one of the righteous people that gets made fun of pretty regularly, just overlooked and avoided most of the time. If you find yourself in that crowd of folks, Jesus has hope for you. The kingdom is here to bless you. If you can become part of the kingdom and become part of the body, the things that you're craving will be fulfilled. His kingdom offers comfort. It'll fill your desires. It'll mirror your gift of mercy. You'll see God in His kingdom, and you'll even be called one of His own children. Those are the promises that are there in the Beatitudes. There is hope there for people. Our theme for our year this year is hope. And if you're struggling, I want you to know there is hope there. But there's a second group of people there at Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It's not just the people mentioned in the first half of those Beatitudes that Jesus speaks to. Matthew chapter 5 is where the Beatitudes are. I was supposed to mark that in my Bible so I wouldn't have to flip there, so sorry. I don't do this very regularly. If you're visiting today, just know there is a better person in charge of this part of the worship. Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that we even do this? Have somebody just talk to us for, I think it was 50 minutes, I think is what David told me to go. We're going to go with 15. I'm going to assume I misheard, and we're going to go with 15. But it's an odd thing we do, just sit and listen to somebody talk. Thank you guys for doing that, but it would be neat if more of us could take a turn doing it. You know how nerve-wracking it is up here. Boy, it's just quiet out there. I don't mind talking, but I prefer y'all to be talking amongst yourselves while I do. But there's a second group of people here at the Sermon on the Mount. Just before the sermon starts in Matthew chapter 4, verse 18, not long before his sermon, Jesus found 4 fishermen and called out to them. Simon and Andrew were at their own boat and had just finished a day of fishing and not very far up the shore. James and John had just been fishing with their dad. And Jesus called out to them and said, "Hey, come and follow me." They probably knew him already, at least knew who he was and knew of him. Whether they had a personal relationship with him yet or not, I'm not sure. But Jesus called out to them and they decided to follow. And then it wasn't long after that Jesus begins his Sermon on the Mount. And those beginning words in the Beatitudes have a good message in there for the people who are already followers of Jesus too, the committed followers. If you're a committed follower of Christ like I am, that same message is there for you and me. But sometimes you have to look at things from a little bit different perspective. Now, Peter, sometimes you have to climb up on top of the desk and look around the classroom and see the room from a little bit different perspective. Don't look at the Beatitudes the way you've always heard about them. Look in there and see what's in there for the ones of us that have been following Jesus for some time. He gives us some instructions. In the movie Dead Poets Society, that's what this picture comes from. The literature teacher, John Keating, has his students stand up on a desk, one at a time, look around his classroom, and he teaches them that sometimes a change in perspective helps you see the world in a different way. When we become Christians and decide to follow Jesus, we meet Jesus. When Peter, Andrew, James, and John were done fishing for the day, they most likely already knew Jesus, but they didn't yet really know him. Later on, when Jesus began his ministry, they were in attendance when he did his sermon here, and they heard the words. And maybe Jesus knew that they would remember his words later. They might not sink in right now what he was trying to tell them. They still saw themselves as the disenfranchised. They still were seeing themselves as the ones that were going to be blessed later. But as Jesus' ministry went on, and as each of these men carried on his ministry when he went back to heaven, I've got a feeling they revisited those blessings a time or two and saw what was in it for them. Just look at the 4s at the end of each one of the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The fours speak to us as loudly as the blessings. The four kind of fulfills the blessing that's there. But there's people out there whose spirits are low sometimes. And we need to recognize that even when ours is not. There's people out there that are that way. Even when I'm not ridiculed because of my rule-keeping ability, y'all all know I'm a very good rule keeper, and you guys that work with me know I am strictly by the rules all the time. You guys that don't work with me know better, and the people that work with me do too. But there are people out there who get made fun of for their morals, for their rule-keeping. There's people out there who crave nothing more than for things to just be right. There's people out there that are welcomed into the kingdom and blessed because of who they are. For this to happen, Jesus had to stand up and leave the mountain. His whole ministry was not sitting on the side of a mountain talking to people. We can fall into the trap sometimes, and I'm 100% guilty of this, of letting my ministry be in a person getting up and talking to a crowd of people that are inside a church building. That's not what Jesus' ministry was about. He had people there listening to the Sermon on the Mount that the second half of each one of these Beatitudes was speaking directly to them. Our job as Christians is to be the doorman. Next one, Peter. I hope, if I remember the pictures that I picked correctly. Our job is to be the doorman. If you watch TV in the 1970s, you know who this pair is. And I tried real hard to find a picture of him with his hand sticking out, because that's how the doorman always left the room in the Jeffersons, was standing there in the door with his hand sticking out, just waiting so he would know it was time to leave when the dollar hit his hand. But our job as Christians is to be the doorman. The door is always open. The church has an open door policy, and I don't think any of us ever doubt that. I learned in my preparation, in my getting ready this week, that an open door policy was a government thing. I had no idea, Lance, that there was an open door policy that was part of U.S. politics right around the turn of the 1899 to 1900, that was encouraging people to do commerce with China. Boy, I went down a whole rabbit hole reading about that, thinking, are you kidding me? We encouraged that once upon a time? It was a different world, different times back then. The church has an open door policy. Our door is always open for anyone to walk in. For safety reasons, we lock it shortly after all you guys get in here, but we have guys waiting to open it up when people come up here. And I think a lot of times we can waste so much of our time and effort just sitting and waiting on people to come in. That's not what Jesus did. He got up and left the mountain. He took his apostles with him, left the mountain, and went out, and they looked for people who were poor in spirit. Jesus wanted those people welcomed into his kingdom, and he still does. He wants us to go look for those folks and welcome them in. He wants us to look for those who mourn and give them comfort. He wants us to look for the meek. They deserve our loyalty. They deserve our vote sometimes. They deserve to be our leaders a lot of times. He wants us to look for people who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness, and then he wants us to fill them up. He wants his church to be doing these things. God shows mercy to people who are themselves patient and merciful. And us being the body of Christ, we are physically to be doing that. We should always reflect God's love and give hope to people with pure hearts. We should recognize and welcome peacemakers into Christ's kingdom. When your brothers and sisters that sit here with you today, or that even are in another part of the world but are still your Christian brothers and sisters, when they're persecuted, we should be reassuring to those people and make sure they know they have a place in God's kingdom. It's easy to reassure ourselves that in the church the door's always open. It's easy to know, yeah, we welcome anybody in, but as long as we use the word we, that keeps me from having to do it personally. And that's not what Jesus wanted. Jesus wanted each of us to buy in and take a personal part in his church, in his physical church. He promised that his Spirit was coming. He promised when you become a Christian, and it happened when the day of Pentecost came, his Spirit was given out. God's Spirit came to live in each one of us and still does, but there's also some physical work to be done. When you look at the Beatitudes, sometimes look at it from a different perspective. Look in there and see what God's telling you to do. See if He's giving you some marching orders to get out and bless folks. I do need to mention, just because I've been out there before, somebody let them know it's almost time to send the kids back in. Thank you. I was trying to think of a good way to do that, but there's no better way than just stop what you're doing and tell them to go do it. Go to the next one, Peter. It's not always, this is the last picture you'll see. I couldn't find a movie with a picture like this, so I just found a vague picture of a lady with her hand out helping somebody. Get out there this week and share the blessing of Jesus. If you're one of the people who needs to be blessed and we don't do that, shame on us. If you're here this morning because of that, looking for a blessing, I hope you find it before you leave. You probably didn't get it from my words, but I hope in the chatter that happens after church, in the hour that people hang around and talk to each other, in the swimming party at the Pearson's house to get ready to go to school again, I hope you find that blessing that you're looking for. But for us that are supposed to be out there giving the blessings, don't just leave the door open. Get out there and help people find it. The people in the Beatitudes that Jesus speaks about are not people who are going to invite themselves in to an open door. You're going to have to go out there and get them. You're going to have to go out there and find them. They're not going to just wander in. They're not going to be so curious about, boy, I wonder what a good sermon sounds like. Nobody comes in here for that, especially not today, but not on any other day. Nobody thinks on Sunday, boy, I could use a good beat down by a preacher today. I'm feeling a little too good about my week. I need to be humbled again. That doesn't happen every Sunday. Hopefully, there's a little bit of lifting up that happens. But during this week, you're going to go to work, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to practices, you're going to be around people. Look for the people that are feeling a little bit left out, that are feeling a little isolated. Look for the people that just need a hand to reach out to them and welcome them in. Welcome them into a family. Welcome them into God's kingdom. Welcome them to the blessings that are there waiting on them. And they just may need a little bit of help finding them. We're going to sing a song here in a second. Blessed Assurance, is that the song? I was thinking that was right. Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. There's people out there that need that assurance, and Jesus has given us the responsibility of providing it to them. He's given us the responsibility of going out and finding them, not just sitting on a mountain and talking, not just sitting in a pew and listening to a sermon. The message does no good if we don't go out and act it out during our week. So I encourage you guys to do that this week. Hopefully we're getting out of here a little early. I'm hoping I didn't preach that long. Are we not early? Doggone it. My family could have told you that wouldn't happen. But stay around, encourage each other. If you know of somebody who needs a helping hand, to reach out to them. There's going to be elders by the door that are going to tell you to have a good day. Let them know. Let them know that there's people out there that need help. I've had a couple of you guys have come to me within the last month and told me, hey, I just need you to make you aware of somebody. And that's such a blessing. We don't always see when that happens. We don't always have our eyes open like we should, but we can use the help. Go out yourselves and help those folks this week. Don't necessarily get them in here. It would be great if you get them in here, but just let them know that God's blessings are there for them and that there's spiritual blessings way beyond any physical blessings that you can give them. Let's stand and sing our song, Byron.